We're going to talk about the variety of natural resources that are common throughout the world, and also the problems that various countries are facing due to the dwindling number of those natural resources and the uneven distribution of those natural resources. So first of all, why are natural resources being depleted? One, there are two kinds of natural resources that are valuable to humans. When you have minerals, and then you have energy resources. For a long time, humans have been very dependent upon, particularly since the 20th century, on low-cost energy and minerals to run our industries, transport ourselves, and keep our homes comfortable. The problem is that NBCs want to maintain that high dependence upon these energy resources, and LDCs want to try and achieve the standards that MDCs have, but there are not enough resources to go around to have both levels be able to maintain those goals. Historically, people have either relied on humans or animals for power, called animate power, but to supplement that, people have used water, they've burned biomass, whether that's plants, animals, waste, or wood, to supplement that power. And it's going to change during the Industrial Revolution, where they take that fuel and make it inanimate power to power machines and things like that, to make production increase and to make the jobs that humans have to do easier with more results. MDCs can consume 3 times the amount of energy as LDCs. For example, North America, United States, Canada, Mexico have the heaviest use of energy, about a quarter of the world's, with only 1/12 of the population. And the 3 substances that provide this energy are coal, petroleum gas, and natural gas, and all of those are non-renewable sources. So that is a huge problem. They're all obviously fossil fuel based, and there's only so much of them to go around. Causes for concern: 1, there's only so much, and 2, they're unevenly distributed throughout the world. If you're looking at this map here, this is based on 2009 statistics. The darker brown colors, almost maroon, are your heavier uses countries. So again, Canada, the United States, Australia, some of Western Europe, Saudi Arabia, but they also have a lot of oil. And then lighter red, and then it gets lighter as you go on. Renewable energy is energy sources that can obviously be renewed, such as hydroelectric from water, geothermal from hot springs, fusion, obviously nuclear power, wind and solar energy. They're all renewable sources. Non-renewable energy is energy that forms very slowly, since fossil fuels, so there's only so much to go around because it's taken millions of years for it to form. Proven reserves, again, there's only so much of the fossil fuels to go around, and there are pockets that are still exist, but certain countries have control of them. Potential reserves, undiscovered oil fields, so people are always doing research to find out where those sources are. Enhanced recovery, trying to go where we currently are to dig deeper. And unconventional resources such as shale, oil sands, taking what already is there and trying to convert it or seeing what you can do with it. Uneven distribution. So 2 inequalities that we have is that some regions have lots of resources, fossil fuels, and some have very few. And that leads to instability because people are fighting over those resources. Coal, for example, the main places you will find it are China and the United States. Petroleum, Southwest Asia, most of the Middle East, Central Asia. Natural gas, Russia has a quarter of the world's supply. But yet the US imports almost half of their petroleum, Japan 90%. LDCs are quickly catching up with how much they're importing. I mean, there are some places such as Libya, places in North Africa that do have, the Sudan, who have oil that they can use and sell, but again, not quite to the extent that places in the Middle East do. All right, control of the world's petroleum. This is where the most conflict is as far as energy resources go. At first, when oil was discovered, Western countries went into the Middle East and they made bargains with the governments of those countries to drill for the oil. In exchange, they would give profits and a lot of kickbacks to those countries. But in the 1970s, The Middle East kicked the Western companies out and took control of the oil prices. And what you have is, in the 1960s, you have the creation of OPEC, which is oil producing economic countries. So what you have is these countries being together, and they decide how much oil is going to be produced at one time, and therefore sets the price. In the 1970s, there was kind of a backlash from the West to the West because of the support of Israel. So there's a huge gas crisis or petroleum crisis. Again, supply and demand changed, but things have been pretty stable recently, and over time the U.S. has reduced its dependence upon foreign oil because of drilling for places closer to in the United States or off the shores of the U.S. Mineral resources. The Earth has 92 elements, but 90% of the Earth's crust contains 8 of them. The 8 most common, combined with the rare ones, create over 3,000. Each mineral has a potential resource. You have metallic versus non-metallic. Mineral deposits, again, aren't evenly distributed. Australia and China have the largest concentration of these mineral resources. Key issue number 2 is, why are resources being polluted? Well, again, pollution occurs when waste is being added more than a resource can accommodate. So you've got air, water, and land pollution. And all countries have dealt with this in one time or another. Your LDCs are struggling with this more than your MDCs because the MDCs have already gone through a lot of this struggle with pollution and have enacted controls to kind of improve this, but your LDCs are where your MDCs were 100 years ago. Air pollution, again, you've got lots of chemicals that are in the air that really shouldn't be there because of factories and cars and all kinds of stuff like that. Most common issues are motor vehicles, industries, and power plants. You've got carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, which changes the balance in the atmosphere, and that causes problems globally, regionally, and locally. For example, in 2008 with the Beijing Olympics, factories stopped producing for a couple of weeks. People asked were not to drive in Beijing for a few weeks so the air would settle so people could actually run, and they were better for the athletes, just as an example. Because of the heat and just the pollution out on the West Coast, particularly Los Angeles, there's always kind of that filtering, kind of smoggy feel. In London in the 1800s, people would walk through the streets and their clothes would be tainted with soot because of the coal that the factories were burning. So throughout history, as countries have industrialized, they have all struggled with pollution. There have been global attempts to try and fight the issue of pollution, but MDCs are more willing to do it because it doesn't hurt them as much economically as versus LDCs do. Air pollution overall, again, global warming. Some people believe it, some people don't. But again, I'm not here to debate that. We're just going to talk facts. It could be causing the temperature to rise. Again, we've seen melting in places like the polar ice caps. Weather has been really funky. Air quality can damage vegetation, different things like that. Urban air pollution is a huge problem, as well as you talked about, like Beijing, the West Coast, things like that. Global warming, again, causes for effects, changes in atmosphere, ocean levels, all kinds of things, polar ice caps melting, so water is rising there, animals having a hard time finding food, all kinds of things. Water pollution, again, there's only so much water to go around. Americans consume a lot of water per day. Water pollution, you have water using industries, municipal sewage, agriculture, again, runoff for pesticides going into crops. Impact on aquatic life, pollution reduces oxygen levels, so it's harder for the aquatic animals to breathe. Most MDCs have passed laws for clean water, for sewage treatment plants, things like that. Anytime there's an oil spill, things like that, that causes issues with the environment. LDCs have less capacity to treat water, sewage water and things like that, because in a lot of places people bathe, they use the bathroom, they do their laundry all in that same water, and there's a lot of contaminants there. Back in the 1800s, when you had industrialization going on in the United States and in Europe, you had breakouts of like cholera and typhoid and dysentery, huge cholera epidemics both in London and in New York City. A lot of people died as a result of cholera until people figured out that you don't put your sewage in the same place that you go to the bathroom, and you don't drink from the same water, and they kind of put 2 and 2 together. Land Pollution, again, a lot of it's hazardous waste, how you deal with disposing of trash. Landfills have declined as people have recycled and aren't throwing away as much stuff. That's worked well in the US. Hazardous waste is difficult though, because you've got things that chemicals that can't break down. How do you deal with that? Gets into the soil. So MDCs have become better about this, but LDCs really don't have much choice with this one. Bangladesh, their top industry is breaking down of ships for scrap metal. There are lots of chemicals that pour into the water and the ocean right around Bangladesh, and it gets drinking water, and people get exposed to toxic chemicals. There's no way to dispose of it, and it's just a giant mess. Renewable resources, again, nuclear energy is not renewable, but it's an alternative. You use a small amount of fuel for a large amount of energy. It supplies about 1/6 of the world's energy. There are some problems, obviously accidents. Chernobyl is one, but that was more human error. Materials for nuclear weapons. Uranium is so much uranium, and it's expensive. Some people are looking at nuclear fusion. That might be an option. But again, the science is still out on that one. Renewable sources, biomass, again, using wood as renewable source. Crops as corn, sugarcane could be used for energy, but limited use because you still have to have food for crops as well, and so that's an issue. Hydroelectric, again, using water to create power. It's the most second popular use of energy, like Hoover Dam, but it can be a disaster, like the Three Gorges Dam in China or the Aswan Dam in Egypt, which wasn't constructed properly, so a lot of people got sick because of parasites getting into drinking water. Wind power has historically been a source going back to the Dutch. It's a less impact on the environment. It can be noisy. It can hurt birds. It's not that attractive, but it does have a lot of practicality, especially in areas that you have flat land where you've got a lot of wind going. Geothermal, whether it's from hot or steam, really areas that have lots of volcanoes like Iceland, Hawaii, the Pacific. They're still trying to work this one out. Example of Hoover Dam, the wind power. Solar energy, it's renewable. Only about 1% of electricity in the US is provided this way. Sun is free, but it can't be sold or bought. It's active. And then you have passive, so you capture solar energy without devices like windows versus the solar panels. So you have two different ways you can do it that way. So this is an example of how it works with the solar panels. Cars, all right, so you have lots of people thinking about cars. You have the situation of electric cars, which are now more of a thing than they were before, because of you have cars that completely run on electric batteries like the Tesla versus the hybrids, which are a combination of the batteries charged off of the motor. So that makes you can obviously don't have to fill up that much with gas because the battery is being recharged by the engine running. So that helps quite a bit. Ethanol is being used to supplement gas, so that takes not as much, you don't have to use as much fossil fuel for your car, but the problem is that it's also taking away food that could be used for animal feed or for human consumption as well. So that's also an issue. So again, some cars that are being powered either by biomass or by electricity. Recycling obviously is a huge thing. You guys are all aware of it, so I'm not going to spend much time on it, but the main things that are recycled are paper, plastic, aluminum, and glass. Again, those are in landfills so they can be reused. Sustainable, the biggest thing is looking at either conserving, so taking what you have and preserving it, trying to manage what you do have and use it wisely. Preserving is maintaining what you already have, and then sustainability, trying to balance everybody's needs. China's growing rapidly. They have most of the polluted cities. How do you help them clean it up, but still allow them to have their economy and not have issues with it?